Hey guys, my name is Lolzayno and I am a Challenger Ziggs one trick. And today I'm going to teach you how to properly use your passive, the short fuse. So there's three different types of ways you can optimally use your short fuse or your passive. The first one we're going to cover is the Q flash auto. And what I mean by here is that after you Q flash, it's essential that you throw your auto attack right after because you should be in range to throw your auto attack, and sometimes your Q flash is not enough damage and that auto attack will essentially get you the kill. Here's an example of me throwing an auto attack after I Q flash, and lots of times, as I said before, your Q flash won't be enough, and I've gotten so many kills just throwing the auto attack right after I Q flash. And as you see here, I got the auto attack right off, and if I didn't auto attack him, he would have been living. So the next topic we're going to cover is turret taking, and there's a correct way of taking turrets and there's an incorrect way of taking turrets. So ideally the main idea is where you want to spam abilities so you can cycle your passive. So every time you throw an ability, it reduces your passive cooldown, and this allows you to maximize as many passive autos as you can depending on how many abilities you throw. But essentially you don't want to throw abilities if you're low mana, because then if you're throwing abilities in your low mana and then you're gonna stay in lane, then you can't clear any waves and you can't do anything to your opponent. So you only want to spam abilities when you are planning to back and you know that there's no opponents nearby. Example of me correctly cycling through my abilities to take down a turret. Here I am relatively healthy in mana and I have about half mana, and I know there's no opponents nearby, so I'm able to confidently push on this turret and get as many passive autos as I can. Here's another great example of me properly cycling through my abilities. I have a good amount of mana, there are no opponents nearby, and I'm timing each passive auto so I can maximize the most damage I can output. And I'm doing this by properly timing my ability. Here's a great example of when not to cycle your abilities in lane. My laner is here, so ideally I want to stay in lane and not miss any experience, so I don't want to waste any mana. So the last topic we're going to cover is fighting with auto attacks. It is essential that you keep on throwing your passive autos as well as your normal auto attacks to output the most amount of damage as you can, because this can make or break small fights, duels, or even large fights. So keep throwing those auto attacks because they actually do a lot more than you think. Here I'm giving you an example where I'm level 1 fighting Oriana, and if you look at how many auto attacks I've output, it has to equal at least almost half her HP. And if I didn't auto attack her at least once or like this amount of times, I wouldn't have killed her. If you're playing against a melee champ, it is essential that in the early game that you output as many auto attacks as you can while they're going up to farm. If you look at this Akali, I'm putting as many auto attacks as I can as she walks up, and it puts so much pressure on her in the lane. And if I keep poking her, I can essentially kill her at the end. This example right here shows how important auto attacks mean in early game fights or even in general. As you can see here, TF was the one to initiate the fight by putting a stun card onto me, and he was at least one ability up as well as another auto attack. Here, I was able to efficiently and effectively weave in my auto attacks in between abilities. I ideally did this by throwing my auto attack and canceling my auto attack animation by using my Q. But that didn't stop me from continuing throwing auto attack after auto attack after auto attack, which would eventually lead me to a kill. So I beg you guys, low elo, it is important that you throw auto attacks because it makes or breaks a lot of fights. So this pretty much sums up all the different things you can use with passive. The short fuse, it's not really an interesting ability, it's just like an empowered auto attack, and there's not many cool things you can do with it. But these three categories pretty much sum up what you can do, and I hope it helps you with your climb. So good luck. Here I was able to effectively throw in and weave in all my auto attacks between. This is a great example of when to not cycle your abilities in lane. This is a greater example. Whatever. Here's a great example of when not to use your abilities to put. Here's a great. Fucking stutter again, bitch. Here's a great